Hello and welcome back to another video from Reveal Cannabis and the Cannabis Institute. My name is Andrea Maharg. I'm a certified cannabis educator and coach. And today I want to talk to you about something that I am so passionate about, which is, can we use cannabis as an exit drug for opiate? And the short answer is yes. So you can turn off the video and go tell people about it if you want, or let's dive in and find out how we got to this place. So a little while ago, I took a really difficult, nerdy science class. And for my final project, I had to review several papers on a topic of my choice. I chose using cannabis as an exit drug for opiates for a couple of reasons. One is that we actually do have quite a bit of research on this particular bent in the cannabis space. And the second is that a couple of cannabis doctors who I'm working with are really excited about this particular application of cannabis. Why is that? Well, of course, we know that the opioid crisis across North America is out of control and continues to gain in momentum. And more people are really struggling with being addicted to opiates or depending on opiates for pain use. And of course, we know that the problem with opiates is that although they're excellent at pain relief, they can also become a drug of abuse really quickly. And in certain instances, can even cause overdoses. If you've been here for a while, you know that cannabis can impact pain as well. And the main difference I want to start out with here is that because of how cannabis works in your body, how it interacts with your endocannabinoid system, it is literally impossible for you to die of an overdose of cannabis. So unlike with opiates, where you can take just a little bit too much and put yourself in a terrible position, even if you consumed all the cannabis that you could find, you would feel really, really, really bad, but you would not actually pass away from an overdose. So right away, there's a big difference in safety right there, but it's far more nuanced than that. So let's take a look at what these studies say. Right now, there are studies out there that are dealing with specifically using cannabis as an exit drug. Anecdotally, people have been reporting, people I know, people maybe in your world, people out there, that they have been able to use cannabis to either wean down on their opiate use or wean off opiates completely. We know that THC and CBD work synergistically with opioids, allowing people to use less of the opioids when they're using cannabinoid therapy. And we know specifically about CBD that if you're already dependent on opioids, that CBD has a particular mechanism of action that can actually reduce your drug-seeking behavior with opiates. So maybe high doses of CBD can help you even from wanting the opiate so much. And of course, using less opiates allows you to have a better quality of life. All right, let's dive into some of the specific studies. And this is going way back actually to 2016, where a research team decided to find out whether it was actually safe to give people CBD when they were taking opioid therapy. And they gave people actually quite a bit of CBD, up to 800 milligrams in a sitting. And what they found is that it's completely safe to co-administer opiates and CBD, even CBD in high doses, without any deleterious effects on the person. Then in 2019, a study was done to determine whether adding in cannabinoids to opioid therapy could help with the quality of life improvement. They had 97 participants, all who were suffering from chronic pain and had been taking opioids for at least 2 years. Participants were given doses of between 15 and 60 milligrams of CBD, which is fairly reasonable. And they found that CBD use with opiate use could improve chronic pain and sleep quality among patients who are currently using opiates. In another study, 53% of the participants were able to completely eliminate their opioid use after 8 weeks of adding in a CBD-rich hemp extract to their daily diets. And almost 100% of that particular group noticed quality of life improvement. In 2018, researchers did a study. Now, mind you, this study was on rodents and not humans, but they had rodents who had already been taking oxycodone for a while, and they provided them with smoked THC. And they found out that it had additive or synergistic effects to help reduce pain. Later on, a study was done actually in humans, and this is kind of a neat pain test. So they have participants immerse their hands in super cold water and see how long they can hold it for without being in immense pain and ripping it out of the water. And they gave the participants pain relief. So they gave them either oxycodone or a very small dose of cannabis and found out that both of those two treatments did not affect pain at all. People were in quite a bit of pain. But when they gave them oxycodone plus THC, they were able to hold their hand in the water longer and they reported less pain. So again, it's this synergistic action of taking perhaps both opiates and cannabinoids together that can help reduce pain sensations. The next study I want to talk about is also really interesting and a little bit scary for big pharma. In 2022, researchers wanted to know if people who had osteoarthritis would refill their opiate prescriptions less quickly, less often if they had access to medical cannabis. And what's really fascinating about this study is they didn't just say to people like, hey, you take exactly this much. They educated people on the different methods of administration. So they taught them about how to take it orally or how to smoke it or how to use it topically. And they also taught them about combining THC and CBD in ratios to help with pain. Most people, about 60%, only used one method of administration, but some of them did go on to combine different methods of taking cannabis. And we know just in our personal lives and also in research that like layering on cannabinoid doses can really help, especially with pain. And so what happened? It turns out that people who use medical cannabis are statistically less likely to refill their opiate prescriptions. Over a third of them stopped using opiates for pain entirely, and pain scores improved for everyone at the 3 and 6 month mark. This paper actually made me a little bit angry when I read it because it seems to me that if people are able to wean off opiates by taking their cannabis, maybe we should be starting with a cannabis first regime in hospitals and doctors' offices. Like, not maybe, we should be. We should not be jumping, in my opinion, to giving people these potentially really dangerous drugs when we know we have cannabis, which is a much safer alternative that people could try. Thank goodness we have opiates for when they need them, but if we don't need them, we should be doing something that is less harmful potentially to people. Cannabinoids can also help reduce some of the side effects that people have from using opiate medication. For example, using cannabis can help people reduce constipation, respiratory depression, and the development of tolerance and dependence to opiates. So again, just maybe combining them is the way to go forward for some people. And let's at the end here just dive a little bit more deeply into this idea that people who are using opiates could be using CBD to help them reduce the cue induced relapse behavior. So they did this study on people who were addicted to heroin, because we know that people who misuse opioids are often triggered by certain cues, like the environment or the people they're with, or maybe drug paraphernalia. So in 2009, a study was done. Again, this one is on rodents who are addicted to heroin. And they dosed the rodents with CBD at like quite high doses. If we were to extrapolate them to human doses, it would be between like 300 and 1200 milligrams of CBD per day. So quite a bit of CBD. And what they found out was that the rodents who were given these doses of CBD went to seek out heroin quite a bit less often. When they were introduced to their cues, for example, in this study, when the lights turned on and off, the rats knew that there was heroin available. So the rats who were taking CBD as well, when the lights flicked on and off, they were not as eager to go rush and get their next heroin dose. And thankfully, researchers took that idea and did do a similar study in humans in 2019. And they found out that acute CBD administration, so taking CBD when you're like maybe in the midst of heroin seeking behavior, in this case, it was heroin again, significantly reduced their craving and their anxiety. They found that administering CBD reduced the craving and the anxiety that was brought about when the people were shown their drug cues. Some of these people were taking significant amounts of heroin, up to about 10 grams of heroin daily. Many of the participants also had histories of alcohol abuse or even cannabis use disorder. And when they're taking CBD again, when they see these drug related cues, they are not so quick to react. They are able to see those drug related cues and not have the craving or the anxiety about taking the drug. The cool thing about that particular study is that they found that reduction in drug seeking behavior actually lasted for up to 2 weeks post administration of CBD. So they had no idea why this was working, but basically they could give CBD to participants and that would help them to not crave the heroin as much as they would have without it for quite a while after taking it. And I know when you tell people about this, they're going to come up with things like, oh my gosh, but cannabis is a gateway drug into other harder drugs. And that is just absolutely not true. This theory is being debunked so many times. So let me just give you a quick stat to start with. So I'm Canadian. Up here, Canadians have been using cannabis at a higher rate for decades. Up to about 30% of the population pre legalization had tried cannabis. But less than 4% of our population had tried or used cocaine, and less than 1% have used heroin. So if cannabis was a gateway drug, then 30% of Canadians supposedly should be addicted to much harder drugs because so many people here are trying it. Now, I'm not saying that if you or someone you love is struggling with an opiate dependence, that you should cut out opiates and try to add in cannabis. This is a really nuanced situation here. Reaching out to somebody who understands this, such as a cannabis informed doctor or nurse or a cannabis coach, is a great idea. I'll put some links down below. I would love to hear from you if you personally have been able to reduce or eliminate your use of opiates with the use of cannabis. And like, tell us about it in the comments. Tell us specifically, like, what are you using? What did you do? What works? Starting this conversation, opening this conversation so that more people can see this as an alternative is so, so important. And if you love learning about cannabis and you love sharing what you learn about it with the rest of the world like I do, please go check out the links down below to the Cannabis Institute and Reveal Cannabis, where you can further your education and spread the great word about this beautiful plant with everyone you know. All right, I'll see you on the next one.